Demanded that he should score for Liverpool. Salah to settle in front of the Kop. Delicious cross, Mane! Alexander-Arnold, it's running!
From doubter to believer.
Hello, all you Reds fans out there. Nick back once again for another episode of Statisfaction. A little change from the Statisfied I coined last week. Nish thought it was a much better idea to use Statisfaction, and thus I agree. And it is now called Statisfaction. So this is where we are. We are going to preview stats for Liverpool versus Arsenal FC. Not really preview, but preview the match with stats, I should say. And it's going to be a tough get up on Tuesday morning for us down under. 4:45 a.m. kickoff on a Tuesday. Hopefully we can get 3 points and I can continue my way to the office for work on a Tuesday morning, happy and listening to a lot of discussion about the match because we want 3 points, we want to maintain our 100% record, and we want to maintain unbeaten at Anfield for the better part of 3 years. So during the course of this show as well, we'll be talking to some Arsenal fans. I think we spoke to my uncle, the Chelsea fan, last week, and we're going to listen to a few Arsenal fans give us their thoughts on Arteta's appointment, the last 5 years, players who they think will stay, some players who they think will go, and of course we'll get their predictions for the match on Tuesday as well. So we're going to be listening to words from Arsenal fans Ibs, aka Ibrahim, also listening to Todd and Tony. And Tony, incidentally, used to actually write for the Matchday program for Arsenal whilst they were in Highbury in the 90s. So a bit of an older fella, and I'm looking to have a further conversation with him later on down the track, maybe just things football in general, but we'll see what happens. But let's kick things off with the stats. As we said, we are taking on Arsenal FC Monday night 8 p.m. for the UK folk, Tuesday 4:45 a.m. or 5 a.m. kickoff, whatever it is. But as we say, Liverpool have won 26 of the last 27 home matches in the Premier League. I think the only draw there was that we got held against someone later on. I can't remember who it was, but it was when we came back from the lockdown break. But we haven't lost at home, which is a positive. We've scored at least 2 goals in 25 of our last 27 home matches. I think we've scored, 3 or 5 goals against Arsenal in the last 3 games at home. So go us. We've scored at least 3 goals in our last 6 home matches against Arsenal. There you go. Should have read that before I gave my thoughts on there, but shows how good my memory is. And we have seen over 2.5 goals in our last 8 home matches against Arsenal in all competitions. So, needless to say, this may be a goal fest. We are playing Arsenal, and they are rejuvenated under Mikel Arteta after spending some years with one of the top managers in the game, the world game, in Pep Guardiola at Manchester City. But let's not forget, Arteta, also a former Arsenal player before he retired and went into management. So I think he's actually learned a little bit from Pep, and we've seen it already towards the tail end of last season and already at the start of this season. But just to run through some results previously in our last 6 matches, 3 in the Premier League, we had a 1-1 draw, we had a 5-1 win. That was when Roberto Firmino was on fire. We had a 3-1 win last season. We had the exhilarating 5-5 in the EFL Cup last year at the end of October, where we won on penalties, and Origi scored in injury time to make it 5-5 with I think it was a half volley or scissor kick or something. It was a pretty nice goal. And then, of course, Arsenal beat us 2-1 at the Emirates at the end of last season, which was our second defeat of the campaign, the first one coming to Watford, who were relegated, unfortunately. And we've also had a 1-1 draw in the Community Shield, where Arsenal won on penalties. So Arsenal have done okay in the last 2 matches against us, but as I say, every new game is a different kettle of fish. They don't say that, but I just did because I'm trying to think on the fly, and that is where we're at. So I think we'll cross to Ibrahim now to get his take on Arsenal FC and just hear a little bit about what he makes of the Gunners and their prospects over the last few years and for this season. First off, just from the offsets, how is the feel being an Arsenal fan at the moment? We know Arteta's come into the appointment, obviously been sort of like a second-hand man to Guardiola, or he has been, so he's learned quite a lot through him, but he's played for Arsenal as well. So, and after coming through the whole Wenger situation, and then with Mr. Good Evening, and then all these sorts of things with Emery. Like, what's it like now? Do you feel more confident with Arteta at the helm?
I think so. If you look at the feeling amongst all Arsenal fans, is we're quite confident. If you look at Emery, I think Emery from the start, from the get-go, was destined to fail. It's always going to be hard coming in after Wenger. If you look at what's happened with Manchester United, I believe they still haven't even got a coach that's really going to lead them into the future. But with Arteta, what I really, really like is you can see the team has a plan. The team has a way that they play. In every game, they play pretty much the same way with the same kind of tactics. And we never found that really too much under Emery. Under Emery, it was chopping and changing constantly. So there's consistency. And I think the two biggest things I found that I like about Arteta is, number one, his effort into players. And there's two players I really want to talk about. It's Shokran Mustafi and Granit Xhaka. Now, if you look at when Emery was around, and even myself personally, I didn't want them at the club. I believe they weren't great players. They had really poor attitudes, and they weren't great for the team environment. But now if you look at, in hindsight, with Arteta at the helm, they're both crucial players. Like Granit Xhaka can't be taken out of the team. And even though Mustafi's injured towards the end of last year, he was our best defender. And I believe that everyone talks about this project that Arteta has, and if it links back to a couple of points that we're going to talk in a couple of minutes, is because of Arteta, Aubameyang re-signed, because he believes in Arteta, he believes in the project, he believes in what Arteta is building. And we've also signed Gabriel, I cannot say his last name for the life of me, but he signed with Arsenal, and he had quite a few suitors. I think Napoli were looking at him, Manchester United were obviously looking at him, but he came to Arsenal, and one of the biggest reasons for that was Arteta. He believed in what Arteta was doing. He believed in the Arteta project. So I believe he's just instilled that confidence in fans that we haven't had since even the earlier days of Wenger, because obviously towards the end of Wenger's days, the fans started to lose that confidence. But I feel now with Arteta, we're starting to get that back. We're starting to get that positive Arsenal back.
It also goes to show that having a key player in your squad will keep players in your squad as well. So I think that's a positive for Arsenal fans, that they can say, Aubameyang, okay, he maybe is getting on age at early 30s, but I mean, look at his performance just the other week and over the last couple of seasons, the guy still got it. So I think you guys having Aubameyang in the squad will bring in more players. And I think, as you mentioned, they're the manager as well with Arteta, with this whole overused term project. I think there could be something in that.
Yeah, no, look, Aubameyang re-signing was huge. Like, if you look at European football as a whole, I personally believe Aubameyang is the second best striker in Europe behind, obviously, Lewandowski at Bayern Munich. And he just brings that confidence, that aura. He brings that swag to the team. And, like, Aubameyang had, and it's well noted that Barcelona were in for him, especially with all the things that were happening with Messi. That was someone that they wanted to bring in. But he said it himself, and this is going to instill confidence in the whole team. He wants to stay at Arsenal to build a legacy. He wants to build a legacy that his kids will look at. He wants to build a legacy in the same vein that Henry, Bergkamp, Adams, Ian Wright, the way they built their legacy in the club, and they're gods to us. Like, if you ask any Arsenal fan about those four players, we'll get down and start praying to them. That's how they are. And I think Aubameyang wants to become that. And in regards to his age, yes, he's a little bit older in age. He's 31 years old, but his speed hasn't slowed down. He's adapting better to the game. And most importantly, and a lot of people don't really recognize this, is he's got a great injury record. Knock on wood, we don't want to lose him. He doesn't get out injured. I can't recall a game for Arsenal where he was out injured. So his body's in good shape. He looks after himself. He loves the club. He loves football. It was just a matter of time for it to happen, and I'm very glad it did.
2 games in, 2 wins, a convincing scoreline against Fulham. I watched the game in its entirety, but you were a little bit shaky at moments, and I thought Fulham were maybe unlucky not to go ahead in the first few moments of the game, but then Lacazette scores, a jammy goal. and VAR almost took it away from you guys, but arguably was the right call, and it was onside and it was given, and then it was cruise control. Aubameyang scored a cracking goal. I forget who scored the third one there, and then it was against West Ham, who you got the win, a late one there, 85th minute. Who was it? Was it Saka or Nketiah who got the goal there late on? But I thought West Ham again maybe unlucky not to go ahead or score a couple more goals. So what have you made of the two performances so far? Granted that some players are still adapting and Arteta is still maybe trying to figure out the best way to play.
I think you can't really take anything out of the Fulham game. Like, if you look at Fulham's squad, everyone's tipping Fulham to go back down. They haven't done much in the transfer window, and they were actually quite lucky to get promoted. They only just got in by the skin of their teeth. So you can't take too much out of that game. Yes, we did look good. I actually take quite a fair bit out of the West Ham game. So West Ham have actually always been a bogey team for us at the Emirates. I don't know why. It could be that London rivalry, but they were the better team yesterday. Yesterday. They were the much better team. They deserved to win. But if you look at under Emery, we would have capitulated and lost that game. That's what I like to see. Is that the team kept on fighting, and Kedia came on and did what a striker does. He scored a goal for us. So as much as we can look at, we're a bit shaky. Some things to worry about. Obviously, there were some things to worry about. West Ham were the better team. But what I take from that game is, a year ago, if you looked at exactly a year ago now, when it got to 1-1, we would have went into our shells and folded, and West Ham would have come out and won that game. They've got some good players. Unfortunately, they're not meshing too well, but they do have some quality players in their team, and they would have taken advantage of that. This year, we stayed strong, we kept fighting, and we come away with the 3 points. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Like, if you look at Liverpool at the end of the from last year, do you ever look back at the performances where you go, oh, we could have played a bit better, but we won? No, you look back that you say, we've won the title.
100%.
So
exactly.
That's the way I kind of see it is, yes, week to week, we look at that and go, oh, we're a bit dodgy, we're a bit shaky. But if we, for example, come out against you guys and put a good performance and snag a point or even snag 3 points, no one will be even looking at that West Ham game. And you just got to look at it in that kind of point of view. We got the 3 points. Yes, there are some things to work on, and I'm guessing Arteta will be working on those things. But at the crux of it, we got there. We pretty much came back to win 2-1, and I couldn't be happy with that.
You guys, when we played against you guys at the end of last season with the 2-1 win that you guys had over us, I think it was our second loss of the season. You guys defended deep and sort of frustrated us a lot. And you had 2 shots on goal and 2 goals. So do you think Arteta is going to go with that same sort of print again? Granted that he's got a couple of other players at his disposal now, or do you think he's going to try be a bit more adventurous and try play attack for attack as we saw Leeds did against us? And I've got to give credit to Leeds. I think Bielsa's done a good job with Leeds there. So what's your view on how Arteta's going to approach the Liverpool game?
What I tend to find in Arteta in the big games, he does go for that more pragmatic approach where he does try to do whatever he can to win. He doesn't care about entertaining people in that regard. He just wants to walk away with the 3 points. And if you look at his reign against any of the other big teams, so we haven't had many big games, but we played you guys, I think, twice in that time. We also beat Manchester City. There was the one anomaly where we lost to City in the first game back from the restart, but that was because David Luiz had a David Luiz game.
Oh, that's right.
But if you look at that, he's set strong from the back and he works his way forward. And fortunately for us, when you got strikers like a Lacazette and like an Aubameyang who will take those opportunities when they're given to them, we can afford to do that. And I think it's just a matter of staying strong in the back, making sure we're composed at the back. And would you look at your striking capability and look at the players you got up front? You got Bobby Firmino, Sadio Mane, who I think is arguably one of the best players in the Premier League at the moment, and Mo Salah. So you got to make sure that your foundation, your rock is secure at the back. Then you can work your way forward. If we were to, for example, go to Anfield and grab a point, for us Arsenal fans, we'll probably look back and go, that's a win for us. Because in past seasons, we go to Anfield and we get thumped 4-0, 4-1. We'll get lucky to score a goal. We'll get lucky to even get into your box. But if we're solid at the back, we can prevent your amazing strike weapons from causing damage on us, and then we can snag the goal from there. We have the pace, we have the players to get you on that counter-attack. So it's going to be a very, very interesting game. Obviously, Liverpool looked really, really good last night against Chelsea. Thiago, wow, 45 minutes, and he put on a masterclass. So it's going to be very interesting to see how you guys introduce him, whether he's going to start for you guys. But I believe we're going to probably go with that same back five formation. You'll probably see Maitland-Niles come in at the left wing back position. Hopefully Kieran Tierney's back from injury because he did pull out right before the game against West Ham. And then you're probably going to see Lacazette up front. And we'll probably still go with Willian on the right, just for that experience. You know what he's going to deliver every time. And then that gives you the option of Pepe coming off the bench as well.
Now, to wrap things up real quickly here, what are you expecting from Arsenal in the next couple of months? Obviously, every big team, quote unquote, wants to be in the running for the Premier League and Champions League and things like that. But just for the next couple of months, like, what do you expect from Arsenal? Do you expect you guys to get some sort of fluidity in play? Do you want to just stay in the hunt in the top four, top three, top two, maybe even? Like, what are you expecting?
Look, every football fan will say they want their team to win the title, but I want to be a bit more realistic, and we've got to take small steps to get to that point. I would like for Arsenal to be in that top four and be strongly cemented, build a consistent team. I would like to see a few more transfers come in. We have been, like, if you look at our ins versus out, we've spent nothing so far because we sold Emi Martinez for 20 million. And I would like to see a few more come in. We're linked to Thomas Partey from Atletico Madrid, who gave you guys a lot of trouble last year in the Champions League. And there's also the young midfielder from Lyon, and I can pronounce his last name, Hassam Ouaer, I think it's pronounced. Apparently we're linked to those two. So hopefully we can get a couple more reinforcements in that really solidify that midfield, because I think our strikers are quite strong. I don't think we need any improvements there. Our defence, yes, can be a bit shaky, but I think with Gabriel, you've got David Luiz, who on his day, when his head's screwed on, he can be one of the best defenders in the league. And then we've also signed the youngster and William Saliba. And I believe you have the right base to move forward there. We just need a couple little more add-ons. And I predict that we will finish in the top four. Will we win the league? Look, if I'm being realistic, probably not. You got Liverpool, Manchester City, who are quite strong. Chelsea obviously have recruited quite well. Let's see how that all meshes. But top four for me is definitely the goal.
Top four, fair enough. And just quickly, prediction for the match for you guys away to Anfield in a week's time. What do you think?
I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. I think it's going to be an exciting game, and I think Arsenal will take the lead to start with, but then Liverpool will come through strong at the end. So I'm predicting a 2-2 draw.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you very much, Ibs. Thanks for your inputs, and hopefully for your sake, at least, and for other Gunners in Australia and around the world, that Arsenal do the business and get you guys back into the Champions League places and then start the rebuild, because take it from me and other Liverpool fans, we know how long 10 years can be. So it's not a quick process, but if all falls into plan, you will get places. So all the best for Arsenal this season, except in a week's time, yeah?
Thanks, mate. Thank you very much for having me on. And good luck in a week's time, and look after yourself.
Big thanks to Ibrahim coming on the show there. Known him for a very long time, and nice to get the perspective of an actual Arsenal fan instead of us trying to gauge what Arsenal fans are thinking. So thank you to him. Now, moving on, the last few fixtures that we have played, we had we've had a 2-2 draw against Salzburg. That was a friendly, 1-1 in the Community Shield. We had another friendly against Blackpool, 7-2. We won that game. We had a 4-3 against Leeds, exhilarating match. The 2-0 against Chelsea last week, and the 7-2 against Lincoln City just the other night, where our B team absolutely tore it up. So it was nice to see the boys getting minutes into their legs. Nice to see Minamino on fire. Curtis Jones bossing the midfield like he's played there for decades. Shaqiri, the power cube, scoring a fantastic free kick and trying to control his newfound hair. It was amazing to see. And of course, we're taking on Arsenal next, and then we've also got we've got them in the EFL Cup as well in a few days' time, and the 1st of October. So bloody hell, it's going to be a frantic few matches against Arsenal. Now for Arsenal, for themselves, they had a friendly 4-1 win against MK Dons. Again, Community Shield 1-1, where they won on penalties. A comfortable but somewhat unconvincing, some would say, 3-0 against Fulham. A very tight and tense 2-1 win against West Ham. A 2-0 win in the EFL Cup against Leicester the other day, with, again, some, not B-teamers, but maybe some players who would normally start on the bench. And, of course, as I just mentioned, we're playing ourselves again in a few days' time. for the EFL Cup at Anfield. So, I mean, with Liverpool, you know what you're going to get. We are very strong with scoring chances. We play a lot down the wings. Our midfield is solidified now with Thiago. But on the flip side, maybe our defense hasn't been up to scratch lately. We have seen some individual errors and some shaky performances. Our defending hasn't been the same. I think Peter mentioned this a couple of pods ago. Peter, the coach, I think it was with George. And if you haven't already, make sure you're listening to the Arsenal preview, because it is a fantastic show and the boys do a great job at analysing and looking into things with a little bit more depth. And the post-match with Nish and Gene. Gene's voice is amazing. The guy reminds me of like a Barry White. It's fantastic. The dulcet tones, like baritone, amazing. But anyways, we know that we haven't been the best defending. A clean sheet against Chelsea. You can say the red card for Christensen helped us in a way, but we still needed to perform because Chelsea are still a dangerous team going forward. But in Arsenal's case, they are good playing through balls. We've seen them do it to us a few times already. Aubameyang on that left wing cutting inside, similar to how Mane and Salah do for us. But I think we've got the double threat of Mane and Salah rather than just Aubameyang. But no disrespect to the other players who play on the wing there. If it is going to be a Willian or maybe a Bellerin overlapping, perhaps maybe a Saka on the flip side, it's not... Can't really compare the two players. Very, very different, but I think there's more threat for us than there is for Arsenal. But in any case, they can play a through ball, and our defence is going to have to be up to scratch. And we know we've got a couple of maybe questionable personnel who may not play or may not start, so we'll get to that shortly. But I think now we'll cross over to Todd and Tony to give us their takes on Arsenal and see what they make of the Gunners in the last few years. And now I'm joined by Arsenal fans Toshe and Tony we've got on the line here as well. So I'll go to Toshe first up. How are you feeling, my friend?
Yeah, mate, good. So far, a couple of games into the season, a couple of good results under our belt. Optimistic going into a big game with you boys next week. So
seems like
looking forward to it, mate.
Arsenal fans are chirpy once again, and we've also got Tony on the line, a proper North Londoner.
Yeah, here I am in Australia. Good start to the season, Nick. I think Liverpool, being the champions, strong favourites to win the game that's coming up, but I think you're in for a problem this time round.
Well, we're going to get to that because Arteta caused us a bit of a problem late last season. We got probably a very unlikely victory over us, mitigating circumstances withheld. But before we get to the match ahead, I want to get your guys' takes on just Arsenal over the last 4 or 5 years, shall we say, post Wenger. Because being a Liverpool fan, we know what it's like when your owners are not pulling their weight and managers come and go, and you've had nearly moments, good moments, and it just seems that everything's been bad lately. So I'll go to Tosha first up. Just sum up the last couple of seasons being an Arsenal fan. What has it sort of made you feel, given we know the past of Arsenal? Like what's it been like now?
Look, mate, it's been a tough few years, for the club. Obviously, the first decade under Wenger was, champagne and trophies, and then obviously we started with the tiki-taka football, and it was great from an aesthetic standpoint, but it really wasn't delivering on the pitch as what you would have liked, and towards the end of it there, you could just see that, his time was, the writing was on the wall, his time was up, and he probably overstayed his welcome just because of the fact that he was a legend of the club, I mean, how do you get rid of someone like that who transformed everything about the club? Moving into a new stadium, he had input into design, he had input into players' diets, and he overhauled everything about Arsenal. And moving on from that, I mean, it's not easy. You only have to look at the big boys in Manchester to see what's happened post Ferguson, and it's been a tough a tough few years for them as well. So we knew that it was going to be tough, and obviously the Emery appointment was an interesting one because he was a manager who had success with Sevilla, he had success with PSG. And it was a bit of a surprise for me when we actually hired him, considering some of the other guys that were available at the time. In the first season, it was, you had your moments, you could see what he was trying to do, but it was just the execution wasn't there. Either the players weren't buying in or the players that we had weren't the right players for what he was trying to do. But, ended, I think we finished 5th in his first season. So you could see that there was, okay, we're there or thereabouts, we're in the mix. And you thought, okay, you don't want to really, turf it after one season. You want to give the guy a chance to do something. And the club obviously backed him in the transfer market, spending big money on, Nicola Pepe, which was a, record for us at £72 million, unheard of, and not just a few years ago for Arsenal. So you want to back a manager, but the way we kicked off sort of like last season was, you could just see the players were disengaged. They didn't want to play for him, and he lost the dressing room. And it was only a matter of time before, he was going to lose his job, unfortunately. Freddie come in, did a good job. And I'll be honest, with the Arteta appointment, they were obviously looking at him before Emery as well. And I was very skeptical because he was a manager who had no managerial experience, obviously working alongside Pep at the time, so really learning from one of, if not the best managers in world football. But lacking that experience was a big sort of question mark for me. But I mean, he's come in, he's credit to him, he's obviously got a vision for what he wants to do. And he's got the players buying, which is more important, we know that we've still got a long, couple of years ahead before things start to really come to fruition. And you only really have to look at what happened with you guys under Klopp. The first couple of years, it was up and down. It would have been tough, because you could see the potential, but you perhaps didn't have the right personnel. And then when your owners got on board and really backed him and supported him in terms of the transfer market, he was able to deliver, bringing in the one with the big ears, number 6 for you guys, and then the big one that you've been waiting about 30 years for. So, look, it's being an Arsenal fan is tough. It's a club that I've loved for 20, 25 years almost, and through that time you've had incredible highs, but such tremendous lows. 8-2 against United, 6-1 against Chelsea. Like these are your big rivals, and you're getting absolutely battered. But the last sort of 12 months, there's been a lot of things to be optimistic about. And for me, the big thing was we were always good at, putting away teams that we should have been. It was really when we came up against, the big boys, you guys, United, Chelsea, City, and we'd come undone, and it was a big mental barrier for us to overcome. But I mean, Arteta's obviously got something going in these guys, because his record against the top 6 or, the big clubs in England is actually quite formidable for someone who's, just starting his managerial career. And if you look at on paper, our teams are probably inferior to some of you guys. So he's done quite well. He's probably got the boys playing out of their skin at the moment. But, there's now you can start to see some sort of light at the end of the tunnel and things to be optimistic about.
No, it sounds like it's basically a summarisation of Liverpool's last 5 or so years. But I'll go to Tony now, and being the older gentleman that he is, he actually, or rather, he tells me off air that he used to actually write for the actual Arsenal matchday program whilst you guys were at Highbury, if it was in the 90s. Tell us a little bit about that, and then mate, give us your thoughts on Arsenal's progression over the last 5 years as well.
So I'm 42. So I've been born in 78. I grew up watching Liverpool win everything as an Arsenal fan. I was there in 89 when we won the title there, the most famous night in football history at Anfield, winning the title on goal difference at Anfield, a ground which had never seen a deficit of 2 goals. Dalglish had never lost by 2 goals. Liverpool were back-to-back champions. Arsenal changed that. So it was my earliest great memory of Arsenal. Mate, I love the club. I'm a little bit more, if you ask Todd, conversations with Todd, I've been very negative the last 10 years, and Todd's always trying to, come on, mate, you never know. And because I'm an older fan, I'm a bit more cynical. I've seen a bit more pain, but I've also seen a lot of glory. Like Todd said, the early Wenger years, no one's ever built a team like 2004. I don't care what anyone says. Liverpool were immense. Man City, brilliant. The Chelsea title teams with Drogba and Lampard, amazing. But the Invincibles in 2004, that's what I remember Wenger for, alongside 2 doubles. His last 10 years, we say they were atrocious. Todd is right. He points out those results that put me in the ground, 8-2, 6-0, 5-1 to Liverpool. They're unforgivable for me. Arsenal should never be getting belted like that. We're too big for that. But he still won 3 FA Cups in his last 10 years. Not bad for someone on the decline. But that's Arsenal. So that's what Arsenal do. We've never been Liverpool. We never pretend to be Liverpool. But we're always in the reckoning. And Arsenal coming back into the reckoning. So Emery, bit of a panic appointment. Arteta in for the running for the job. Got knocked back, went back to Man City. What I like about Arteta is it was approached again and he come running. His ego went out the window. He didn't mention anything about missing out the last time. I wanted to go elsewhere. He came back. He's done 3 things. In summary, he's done 3 things that make me feel better about the club. He's made us hard to beat. We were easy to beat. He's made us hard to beat. He's restored pride in the cannon. Everybody was disillusioned and indifferent at Arsenal. If you watch Arsenal fan TV, they're all rioting after the game instead of talking about good things. We're talking about Wenger this or Emery that or Ozil this. So he's restored pride in the cannon, made us hard to beat, and in 3 months he's won a trophy. Something that Spurs can't do, something that loads of teams can't do. He's come in, won a trophy straight away, and then against you lot in the Community Shield, yes, it's a meaningless game, but you want to win it when you're there. It's trophy, Wembley, Liverpool, best team in the country. We won that as well. So I can't say we've won 2 league games. We just beat Leicester last night with a bunch of kids. I'm decent. I'm mildly optimistic. I didn't want to meet Liverpool just yet. It's a bit early for me. I would have liked 10 matches and to try it in. But still, I wouldn't write Arsenal off in this game.
Well, we saw what happened just the other day when Liverpool ventured over to Stamford Bridge, and Chelsea may be still trying to find their feet as well after their appointments, and they've spent big money. And I think one mishap you can probably make with any team that buys big is expecting them to fit and gel straight away. But not to talk about Chelsea, we'll go on to your players at the moment, because Aubameyang was a big question mark towards the end of last season. He's got 1 year left. Is he going to sign? Is he not going to sign? Now he's signed an extension deal for big pounds. And I think having someone like Aubameyang there, even though he's in his early 30s, you can see the quality that guy's got. I mean, the goal he scored against Fulham was fantastic. The goal he scored against us as well in the Community Shield was a nice goal as well. Split ball, cross pitch, takes a touch, moves on, and just finishes deadly. The guy has still got it. So having someone like Aubameyang in the squad, although not maybe to the likes of Dennis Bergkamp, who was one of my favourite players of all time. I remember when I went to the Emirates to watch, coincidentally, Arsenal v Liverpool, some years ago now.
Best ever Arsenal player in history.
I loved. I took a photo. I took about 10 different photos, every angle I could in front of that statue of him jumping midair and just controlling the ball with his toes. I mean, but having someone like Aubameyang there with Lacazette finding his feet once again, he had a bit of a maybe sticky patch. Defenders coming in as well. I think that's something that you guys really needed to enforce. You've got Gabriel coming in there. Saliba's also come in as well recently. Ceballos has come back on loan. He was sort of starting to come good towards the end of last season, and then it's good that you guys got his signature again for the season, because I think you did need someone in the middle there to sort of give some creativity. I'll go back to Tony first up. Current crop of players, there is still a long way to go, but do you think you've got enough to at least claw yourselves back into that top four? And with Arteta at the helm, is he going to bring you that stability that you guys so badly need?
Look, he brings stability in himself, the way he manages the team. We already see that. He's organised the team. He's doing the best with what he's got. Having said that, is the squad strong enough? No. So if you put that squad under Wenger, challenging for top four, or Emery, they're not going to make it. You put that squad under Arteta, there's a chance, a strong chance, simply because of the manager. I'm not saying the guy's a genius. He has done nothing yet. But based on what I've seen and my instinct, it says that with some adjustments, so I'm not happy. Don't get me wrong, there's a dead wood there. Todd will probably reel off the names better than me. I'll take longer to say them because, I'm older. But there's a lot of dead wood that needs to go, starting with a guy that's taking 350k a week to do nothing. So he's embarrassing him out of the club, but he's got to sell some others. Kolasinac, not good enough. Mustafi's not good enough. Socrates isn't good enough. Holding's not good enough. There's more. Todd will tell you. He looks into that more. But I still believe that he can challenge, Arteta can challenge with some adjustments for the top four. Based on another thing Todd mentioned, we're beating bigger teams now. So if you can pick up the points that you should, and then you're facing Liverpool and you get a draw, or you beat them, or Man City and you can hold your own, and you beat Spurs away and draw at home, that's Champions League. That gets you that top four. Destroying those teams is what wins you the league, which is what Liverpool are doing, and what I believe Liverpool will do again this season. But I just don't think it's going to be as easy. I don't think you're going to win it by a landslide because teams like Arsenal are on the up. Spurs are still Spurs. They're shit, but they've got a good manager. They're shit because I hate them, but they're a good team. Everton, decent. Man United, as much you can say what you want about United being there, they're gone now. It's still United. They're going to come into form at some stage. They're going to address the problems. Can Arsenal? You asked if Arsenal can mount a top four challenge. I say yes. Despite the circumstances.
Okay, let's say, for example, it ends up in a draw on Tuesday morning for us in Australia. Is that going to disparage you, or are you going to think like, yeah, cool, we got a draw away at Anfield, and this is going to give us momentum going forward with the players we have with Arteta at the helm?
Mate, look, I think a draw at Anfield anytime is a great result. Let alone when you're coming up against, the reigning champions, the, 6-time European champions. You guys are, like Tony said, my favourites to win it again this year. Obviously, you made some good points that you guys addressed key areas that you needed to in your defence, things like that. And we're still very much going through that at the moment. I think we've got, like Tony said, we've got some deadwood that, that we do need to look at moving on. But unfortunately, with the almost socialist regime that Wenger used to run, you used to have parity for players across the board, and some of our squad players, the money that they're on, to not even make the substitute bench is ridiculous. Moving these guys on, you're asking them to take pay cuts to go to teams and things like that. Why would they? They'll just be happy to sit in the stands and pick up, 50, 60, 80 grand. In Ozil's case, 350 grand. You know what I mean? To not even see the football pitch most of the time. So we're going to have some problems moving on some of those guys. We're probably going to have to chop, eat up some of those contracts if we're really wanting to move those guys on. But Tony mentioned some guys there, Kolasinac, Socrates, these guys, they were brought in obviously almost as a stopgap. But that they've done what they could. It's time to look at moving them on and trying to raise some money to then invest in the squad where Arteta wants to. The board's pretty much told him we bought Gabriel. Obviously, Saliba's come in. We brought Willian on a free, but for some big money as well. So getting in Ceballos, and like you mentioned, the Aubameyang re-signing is huge for us. The guy is up there as one of the best strikers in world football on his day, and you only have to look at his Chelsea goal in the FA Cup final. and it's money well spent, and getting him to sign was a huge thing for us. And I messaged Tony right after it was announced, and I said, mate, a couple of years ago, these guys would have been, holding up one of our rivals' jerseys, Van Persie, Nasri, Fabregas, these guys just leaving the club in times like this. And the fact that you're able to then retain him, retaining your captain is a huge coup for us. Yeah. Obviously, he's got his eyes on, who he wants to bring in, Arteta. He's got players who he's identified would strengthen the squad, but the club's obviously put him in a position where he has to then look at selling before he can buy. So we've got some sellable assets, guys like Torreira, who are, young, great, good player on his day, but probably just not suited to what Arteta's wanting to do with the club, that you could try and recover some of that transfer fee and then look at investing that money. But I think if we come away with a draw against you guys at Anfield, mate, is a significant result. You look at it, you'd say 7 from 9, with, progression in the League Cup as well against a Premier League opponent in Leicester, who are on their day, can be very dangerous for anyone. You have to be happy with that. You have to think it puts you into a good stead heading into I think there's an international break coming up as well. So, there'd be a lot to be positive about. I mean, even if we were to come away with a loss, but the boys compete and they, they're tough to beat, and it's maybe a 1-0 or a 2-1, you still take that. What you don't want to see is you don't want to see them roll over. And like Tony said, you don't want to see, the club getting battered again. And I don't think that will happen. I think Arteta's got some good systematic football in place. He's obviously, he's learned under Pep. Say what you want, Pep's probably the greatest manager, certainly of this era, if not up there of all time. So to work alongside him, to see the ins and outs of how he operates and what he expects of his players. You can see that Arteta's come in, and regardless if you're a star or you're a sub, you're a role player, you're a youngster coming up from the youth team, the expectation from the manager's the same, and if you're willing to put a shift in and you're willing to work, he's willing to give you a go. So look, I think I'd be stoked with a draw, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't think we could win. Last couple of results against you guys, we've been fortunate in that, almost unexpectedly gotten the result. So now with a bit of wind in our sails, mate, who knows? We'll see what happens on Tuesday, I guess.
Yeah, there's been some positional alterations from Arteta with the squad. Some would say sitting deep, or to use the old beaten horse term, park the bus, which we've had to do as well in the past. And believe me, when you just want to win a game, sometimes you don't care how you win it, you just want to win it. So if you do come to Anfield, defend deep, give us a low block, make us work for it, spring us on a counter-attack and beat us, then fair enough, that's a master plan. That's what they would say, a master stroke, because if, as you said, Guardiola is one of the best in the world, if he did it, you'd be like, oh wow, that was fantastic. But if you see someone like a Sean Dyche do it for Burnley, you're going to think like, this guy's not playing football, he's killing the game, etc., etc. Or on the flip side, if you see a big team do it, it might be seen as killing the game. We want to see big teams play and do that. But I think you've been to Anfield one too many times and seen what can happen in terms of the end result. So to wrap it up, I'll ask for predictions, but just to give the listeners a bit of an idea, 26 of the last 27 home matches, Liverpool have won at home in the Premier League. So that's the only one they lost there was against, it was a Palace still like 3 years ago, whatever it was now. Wow. And we've scored at least 2 goals in 25 of 27 home matches, but you guys have won your last 3 matches in the Premier League, home and away. So I'll go to Tony first up. Prediction, what do you think's going to happen in this match?
Oh, look, I'd like to fantasize about it, but I'll be real. Liverpool, the champions, playing at home. No one's going to give us a prayer. Yes, the Aubameyang thing just quickly was very big. You don't win the cup, he doesn't sign. Him signing, becoming captain gives us a bit of impotence, and it's the only player you will actually be worried about on Tuesday morning, if you're honest, because there's threats elsewhere. But if he's nullified, we have a problem. So, yes, everything points to a Liverpool victory. And that's why I can't give you a score, but it's pretty obvious. Everybody will be gunning for a Liverpool victory. And that's why I'm going to have to say that Arsenal are going to beat Liverpool on Tuesday morning.
I was waiting for that.
Don't laugh.
I was waiting for that.
Mate.
I was waiting for that.
I'm not joking. It will happen.
Exactly right. It is possible. It is possible. Todd,
Very.
What are your predictions?
Look, I mean, Anfield is a fortress on any day, but I mean, with COVID, it's not going to be the same Anfield. You know, that for me, I've been watching the football and watching really any of the sports since it's come back post all this sort of coronavirus. You eliminate fans and all of a sudden there's no advantage. There's no home or away. There's no, you know, so for me, 26 out of 27 games at Anfield for Liverpool, I mean, that's incredible. I mean, what a run, you know, and playing in front of you guys expanded it up to almost 60,000 now. So
about 55,
you know,
I think, yeah.
55-ish, you know, but
best stadium in the country. Still the best stadium in the country. Anfield is still the best place in football. And I'm an Arsenal fan, but I've never seen anything like it or heard anything like it in my life.
I was going to say Emirates is a fantastic stadium. I've been on the tour and been to a game there, but I'll take that compliment. Thank you.
There's no character. We're talking about character. Yeah. Anfield is Anfield.
Yeah.
That's why there's that sign there that says this is Anfield, because it's Anfield.
That's right. And you're writing for the magazines and everything, and Todd as well. Go on.
Look, I think you know, Tony with a win might be a little bit optimistic, you know, but I'd only have to look at, you know, our last couple of performances against you guys and actually agree with him. I think it's going to be tough to do. I think, you know, it's early in the season, so that could be both an advantage but also a disadvantage. And we saw Chelsea very slow to get away against you guys and paid the price for it. So who knows? You might be a little bit sloppy to get started on Tuesday, and we nick an early goal, and then all of a sudden it's game on. So look, for me, if I'm going to go score, I think both teams are going to score. I think, you know, I don't see us keeping a clean sheet against Liverpool at Anfield, but I'm feeling it 2-1. I just think 2-1 Arsenal. I think we'll have a big game from Aubameyang and I reckon Williams impressed me in midfield. You know, I think he's pulling the strings really well and he's got that silky touch, but he can also put it away. So I just think, you know, there's a lot to be optimistic about, although, I mean, who knows? It's football. It could go one way, it could go the other. So,
exactly.
Nick, what about you, mate? You're a Liverpool fan. You're flying, you're champions, European champions the year before. You're playing Arsenal, they're in disarray. We know you all fancy it. How much are you going to beat us by? Is it 4-1, 5-1? I want to hear it.
Not even. No, honestly, if you listen to the way we speak about games, we're not these, it's Arsenal 5-0 type of things. No. The way we've seen Arsenal, you guys have mentioned the last few months now with Arteta's, sort of play, you can actually see it happening in the squad now. And as I said, if he has a deep block and then looks to spring counterattacks, because we are a high pressing team, we sometimes our defenders are playing almost as, you know, defensive/attacking mids. So that leaves a lot of space open for your opposition to run into. And then if Arteta does sort of like suck us into that hole and then spring us on a counter-attack, then we could be in trouble. I don't think it's going to be an open game. If you listen back to the preview I did for the Community Shield, I actually did say I don't think it's going to be an open game. I think it's going to be pretty tight and cagey, and it ended up being that way. So I'm going to say we're going to win 2-1, but it's not going to be a straightforward game. I think it is going to be a lot of backwards and forwards, and Arsenal will cause us problems. Yeah.
There's a red card in there somewhere as well.
Ooh, maybe.
I don't know. There's a red card in there. I see Klopp and Arteta. I see drama. Like you, I see drama. I see nerves. I see tension. And if I'm honest, I see a narrow win for one of them. I don't know. Someone's going to win. I don't see a draw. I don't know why, but I see a win one way or the other.
A one goal in like a 2-1 or maybe even a 3-2. We haven't seen a 3-2 in a while, so Might be something to know. Thank you for joining us once again. And maybe we might be able to have another chat and actually talk about your experiences during Highbury and just football in general, because I always love those sort of stories.
No problem. Anytime.
We'll sort it out. But thank you once again. I appreciate it. Thank you heaps.
Cheers, boys. Thanks.
See you, gents.
guys.
Thanks, Todd. Take care. Big thank you to Todd and Tony there, giving us their thoughts on Arsenal. Tony, the cynical pessimist. Todd, the ever cheerful optimist. It's a good dynamic to have. I think there's a lot of fans like that in every club. We know we've got pessimists in Liverpool and optimists, so we can understand. And to carry on now, to finish off the stats preview, let's check out what the potential starting lineups could be. And as I mentioned already, if you haven't, do check out the Adonis pod with the in-depth preview for this match itself. But starting lineups, you'd say Alisson's going to be in goal, Robertson, Van Dijk. Gomez is still possibly questionable. He's returned to training. He didn't play in the EFL Cup match against Lincoln. He also didn't play in the match against Chelsea because we had Fabinho step in as centre-back and did a fantastic job. So I think the boys answer their thoughts on Fabinho partnering Van Dijk in their podcast. Trent Alexander-Arnold, you'd think, would definitely start. The midfield is a very questionable one now because we've got so much riches available, or so many riches, I should say. Wijnaldum, Fabinho, Thiago, Chamberlain, Henderson. You've also got Jones, Shaqiri, Minamino. Granted, some of these players are unavailable, so you're probably looking at if Henderson is still out because he only played half a game against Chelsea, maybe he wasn't up to scratch, maybe this is just precautionary, but apparently he won't be playing, so you are most likely going to see Thiago maybe playing the roaming role, Fabinho sitting and Wijnaldum doing his thing. Maybe Wijnaldum might be venturing a little bit more forward, as we saw in the second half against Chelsea. He was getting into some good goal scoring positions. Arguably his finishing needs to improve, but I think there was a manager who once said, yeah, as long as you're getting in the positions to score, that's happy. Then it's just a matter of hitting him. Now, forgive me if it was a Liverpool manager. I've got a mental blank right now, but I'm sure if you guys know, you'll know exactly. As long as you get into the positions, I think you're doing okay, and then everything else should follow thereafter. He's hoping. But Thiago, I think definitely will start in this match. We are going to need him because the front three of Mane, Firmino, and Salah will be thriving to get onto balls that have been passed through from Thiago, so hopefully that will come to fruition in this match at Anfield. Shame there'll be no crowd to watch it. I think this is one of those games where crowds will come into play, and the way the crowd reacts with the team, this is definitely one where you're going to need them, but we'll see what happens without any crowd. As mentioned, some players missing. Chamberlain is out, Henderson is out, Matip is still out, might be out for a while. Gomez is doubtful, but he's back in training, so fingers crossed he may start. If not, you probably will see Fabinho drop into the centre-back role, and you may see someone like maybe Jones start, or you might have a Minamino in the middle. We'll see what happens. For the Gunners, they have more injury issues than you would like. For them, Callum Chambers is out, Martinelli, Pablo Mari, Mustafi, Emil Smith-Rowe. Kieran Tierney is doubtful, same as Socrates and Cedric Suarez. But I think they may look to defend in this match as they did in the last two against us and look to spring us on a counter-attack and force an error from us, which is how they got their win at the Emirates. But you are probably looking at a starting lineup of Leno. David Luiz hasn't had the best of times against us and Salah. Gabriel Magalhaes, how you pronounce his name, I'm not too sure. Starting at the centre-back role in the back three. And Kieran Tierney, if he's fit enough to start, I think he will start. He looks like a good player coming from Celtic. Saka, Ceballos, Xhaka and Bellerin in the middle. Saka and Bellerin playing the wing-back roles. And a front three of Willian, Lacazette and Aubameyang, who is their danger man. 100% is their danger man, as you would have heard all sets of boys chit-chatting about the importance of having Pierre-Emerick in that starting lineup. So, for Liverpool, Minamino, Jones had a fantastic match against Lincoln. They may be starting on the bench, unfortunately, though. Henderson is out. Fabinho may be coming back in. Thiago hopefully getting his full preview. For Arsenal, they rotated a couple of days ago. Will they look for their best starting 11 in this match, even if some of the players played? We'll see what happens. Will fatigue be a factor? Will Pep... Wow, that's where my mind is going. Will Arteta park the bus and look for counterattacks and force errors from Liverpool, or will we see a proper back and forth footballing match? I think Arteta's seen Arsenal, whilst not being with them over the last few games, how potent Liverpool can be when Arsenal do come out to play. So I think he may be a little bit more conservative and reserved in this match itself. But as said, in my predictions, I'm going for a 2-1 for Liverpool. I think it's going to be a 1-goal game. And fingers crossed, we make it as comfortable for ourselves as possible. And Arsenal do not get the satisfaction of frustrating us at Anfield. But that is it from myself. Thank you very much for tuning in, downloading, listening, however you may be. Up the Reds. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Check us out on Twitter at LFC Couch, Instagram at LFC Couch, and also Facebook LFC Couch. That's it from me. Take care, and up the Reds.